Well, look at you. The one they can't map out, can't box in, can't predict, can't sleep on anymore. You feel it, don't you? That pressure in the air, that weird silence when you walk in, that fake confidence people wear when they're trying not to let you see the panic leaking out of them. Because the shot callers are sweating. And it's not because you got louder. It's not because you begged for their attention. It's not because you stood in the middle of the room screaming for validation like everybody else. No, they're sweating because you changed. You stopped performing. You stopped explaining yourself. You stopped giving people previews of what you were about to do. And now they're stuck trying to read a book that burned itself before they got to chapter 2. That's what's breaking them. See, people in power get comfortable when they think they understand your pattern. They relax when they think they know your limits. They smile when they think your future is just a rerun of your past. They love the version of you that reacts on cue. The version that gets emotional on schedule. The version that posts too much, talks too much, vents too much, reveals too much. The version that shows every wound before it becomes a weapon. The version that lets everybody watch the whole process. That version of you was easy to manage, easy to bait, easy to provoke, easy to delay, easy to keep under a ceiling they built for you. But then something happened, didn't it? Life got ugly, people got fake, the masks slipped, the smiles got colder, the betrayals got cleaner, and one day you woke up and realized something that hit like a punch to the throat. You were giving too much information to people who were studying you, not supporting you. That changes a person. That kind of realization doesn't just hurt. It hardens, it sharpens, it reorganizes your whole soul. So now they're looking at you, and they can't get a clean read anymore. They don't know if you're about to leave. They don't know if you're about to level up. They don't know if you're quiet because you're healing, planning, detaching, or already gone in your mind. They don't know if you're done playing nice. They don't know if you're about to build something bigger than anything they tried to keep from you. And that uncertainty is eating them alive, because control freaks hate mystery. People who live by manipulation need access. They need tells. They need habits. They need your weak spots to stay visible. They need your reactions to stay predictable. They need your pain to stay public. But when you go quiet and disciplined, when you stop arguing with people committed to misunderstanding you, when you stop trying to prove your value to people who benefited from you doubting it, that's when the game flips. That's when their hands start shaking behind closed doors, because they know something you're still learning to fully appreciate. You are dangerous when you stop needing applause. Read that in your bones. You are dangerous when your moves no longer depend on being liked. You are dangerous when rejection no longer sends you begging for clarity. You are dangerous when disrespect no longer gets your energy. You're dangerous when loneliness no longer scares you, back into bad rooms with bad people and fake love. That version of you, that version terrifies them, because now your decisions come from a deeper place. Now you're not reacting from hunger. Now you're not reaching from desperation. Now you're not saying yes just because you're afraid the opportunity won't come again. Now you're not clinging to people who keep showing you exactly where you rank in their heart. Now you see. Now you really see. And once you see the game, you stop playing it the same way. That's why they keep watching you. Oh, they're watching. The ones who underestimated you. The ones who talked like you were finished. The ones who smiled in your face and counted on your confusion. The ones who thought your setbacks were permanent. The ones who mistook your pain for weakness. The ones who thought your silence meant surrender. They're watching because silence from a broken person is one thing. Silence from a rebuilding person is terrifying, because rebuilding people move different. They don't announce every shift. They don't post every lesson. They don't explain every absence. They don't gather an audience every time they bleed. They become selective, measured, colder in the right ways, calmer in the right moments, more surgical with their attention, more brutal with their standards. And suddenly the people who used to feel 10 feet tall around you start second-guessing everything. Now they wonder who you talk to. Now they wonder what you're working on. Now they wonder why you don't react like before. Now they wonder why access to you feels restricted. Now they wonder if they lost the version of you they knew how to handle. And let me tell you something nobody says enough. They did. They lost that version of you. That version died in the disappointment. It died in the disrespect. It died in the waiting. It died in the nights you had to sit with your own thoughts and realize nobody was coming to save you. It died when you finally understood that some people only loved your potential as long as it stayed unfulfilled. That hits, doesn't it? Some people will clap for your dreams as long as your dreams never threaten their position. They love the talented you. They just don't love the focused you. They love the wounded you. They just don't love the healed you. They love the available you. They just don't love the unavailable you. They love the version of you they can interrupt. They hate the version of you they can't control. That's the truth. And the truth is ugly. The truth doesn't wear perfume. The truth doesn't care about comfort. The truth rips the wallpaper off the room and shows you the mold underneath. A lot of people were never scared of your flaws. They were scared of the day you finally stopped apologizing for your power. That's what this is really about. Not your mistakes, not your past, not your delay, not the seasons where you fell apart and had no idea what the next step looked like. They're sweating now because something in you stabilized. You still feel pain. You still have scars. You still carry memories that make your chest go tight. You still have moments when the doubt creeps in. You still fight those old voices that whisper, maybe you're too late, maybe you missed it, maybe you're not enough. But you don't obey those voices the same way anymore. And that changes everything. See, people think transformation looks loud. They think it's dramatic. They think it arrives with fireworks and speeches and a perfect playlist in the background. Most of the time, it doesn't. Most of the time, transformation looks like you getting tired. Tired of disrespect. Tired of waiting for a text that never comes. Tired of being the one who always understands. Tired of shrinking. Tired of overthinking. Tired of making yourself digest pain just to keep the peace. Tired of being told to be patient while other people play in your face. Tired of carrying your potential like a secret because other people get weird when you act like you know who you are. That kind of tired becomes sacred. Because one day it stops looking like exhaustion and starts looking like standards. That's when the shot callers start sweating harder. Because standards make you expensive. Standards make you harder to replace. Standards make you impossible to bait with crumbs. Standards make you immune to fake urgency. Standards make you say no without writing an essay. Standards make your energy feel different. Sharp, rare, untouchable, and people can feel that before they can explain it. That's why some rooms get strange when you enter. That's why certain people go passive-aggressive for no reason. That's why some folks suddenly act weirdly competitive. That's why they start fishing for information. That's why they keep trying to check if you're still insecure, still available, still easy to shake. They're testing the old locks on a door that doesn't open for them anymore. You need to hear this. Your unpredictability is not confusion. It is evolution. You are not random. You are not lost. You are not broken because people can't track you the way they used to. You are finally moving from instinct sharpened by pain instead of performance shaped by fear. That is a different animal. That is what makes you powerful. Because when you stop announcing your next move, your presence becomes psychological pressure. Think about that. You don't even have to do anything yet. Sometimes the possibility of what you might do is enough to make people unravel. That's power. Not cheap power. Not loud power. Not internet power. Real power. The kind of power that shifts dynamics before words are even spoken. The kind of power that makes fake people nervous because they can no longer predict where to place the knife. The kind of power that makes gatekeepers uneasy because they can't decide whether to block you, flatter you, or fear you. The kind of power that makes opportunists circle back around pretending they always believed in you. And let's talk about that for a second. When people feel you changing, they start moving funny. Suddenly they're checking in. Suddenly they're liking your stuff. Suddenly they're curious. Suddenly they're trying to reconnect. Suddenly they've got advice. Suddenly they want to build. Suddenly they remember your value. Be careful. Not everybody who comes close is meant to come with you. Some people don't miss you. They miss access to the old version of you. They miss easy entry. They miss your openness without boundaries. They miss your softness without discernment. They miss your talent without your confidence. They miss your heart without your standards. Let them miss it. You don't owe resurrection to people who profited from your weakness. You don't owe constant explanations for why your spirit got stricter. You don't owe comfort to people disturbed by your growth. You don't owe the old performance just because the audience got attached. Let them deal with the withdrawal. You're not here to be emotionally convenient for people who only loved you in a diluted form. And this part matters. Don't confuse being quiet with being passive. Your silence is not passivity. Your distance is not defeat. Your restraint is not fear. Sometimes the most dangerous thing you can do is stay calm, long enough to see everything. That's where real advantage lives. Not in rushing, not in panicking, not in proving, in seeing. Seeing who only calls when they need something. Seeing who gets weird when you win. Seeing who disappears when you need support. Seeing who acts supportive in public but competitive in private. Seeing who keeps inviting you to stay small because your expansion exposes their laziness. Seeing who praises your potential while quietly praying you never fully step into it. Once you see clearly, your moves change naturally. You stop chasing. You stop oversharing. You stop arguing with denial. You stop trying to drag loyalty out of people who only know convenience. You stop handing your time to those who treat it like it regenerates for free. And when you stop giving yourself away so cheaply, your whole life starts to reorganize around your worth. That's when people call you different. Of course, you're different. Pain taught you what free lessons never could. Pain taught you to read energy faster than words. Pain taught you to trust patterns more than promises. Pain taught you that apologies without change are just emotional spam. Pain taught you that being needed is not the same as being valued. Pain taught you that some people will study your light just to figure out where to cast their shadow. So, yeah, you're different now. You had to become somebody your old problems could no longer recognize. Let that land. You had to become somebody your old distractions couldn't seduce. Somebody your old fears couldn't run. Somebody your old circle couldn't define. Somebody your old habits couldn't keep poor in spirit. Somebody your old wounds couldn't keep introducing as your identity. That's what real change is. Not a quote, not a trend, not a little burst of motivation that disappears by next week. Real change is when the same thing that used to break you now just informs you. That's terrifying to the people who counted on your emotional instability. They needed you doubting yourself. They needed you checking the room every 5 seconds. They needed you apologizing for your ambition. They needed you making yourself smaller so they could feel larger. They needed you to remain available to confusion. But you're not there anymore. Now you pause. Now you observe. Now you choose. Now you cut things off faster. Now you recover quicker. Now you stop romanticizing disrespect. Now you stop calling crumbs a connection. Now you stop mistaking intensity for loyalty. That's maturity with teeth. And when maturity grows teeth, the shot callers lose sleep. Because the old tricks don't hit. The guilt doesn't work. The pressure doesn't land. The delay tactics don't scare you. The mixed signals don't control your self-worth. The silence doesn't force you to chase. The exclusion doesn't make you feel worthless. The politics don't blind you. The titles don't impress you. The fake status games don't hypnotize you. You've seen too much. Once a person has survived enough internal wars, outside intimidation starts looking real small. That's you. You're not impossible to read because you're pretending. You're impossible to read because you stopped outsourcing your identity. That means your next move won't be chosen by pressure. It won't be chosen by revenge. It won't be chosen by the need to be seen. It won't be chosen by panic. It'll be chosen by alignment. And alignment is scary to people who built their whole advantage on your internal chaos. Because when you become aligned, your energy stops leaking. Your focus sharpens. Your words mean more because you waste fewer. Your effort compounds. Your presence changes. Your eyes change. Your timing changes. Your standards change. Everything gets cleaner. People can feel clean power. It bothers them, especially the ones who always assumed they'd have another chance to play with your time. No, not anymore. There comes a point where the kindest thing you can do for yourself is become unavailable to nonsense, unavailable to drama, unavailable to inconsistency, unavailable to disrespect dressed up as honesty, unavailable to false urgency, unavailable to manipulative guilt, unavailable to environments that require you to abandon yourself just to stay included. That kind of self-respect is expensive. It costs people access. It costs people control. It costs people their fantasy of who they thought you'd always be. Let it cost them, because every level of your life is going to demand the death of a version of you that can't survive there. And right now, the version dying is the version that thought being understood by everyone was necessary. It isn't. Everybody doesn't need to get it. Everybody doesn't need to approve. Everybody doesn't need a copy of your blueprint. Sometimes your next move stays sacred, precisely because it hasn't been exposed to the wrong eyes. Protect that. Protect your peace before it becomes performance again. Protect your vision before opinions infect it. Protect your momentum before unnecessary conversations slow it down. Protect your confidence before old voices try to reattach themselves to your future. You've come too far to keep letting spectators vote on your life. That chapter is over. The reason they're sweating is simple. They can feel you slipping out of reach. Not emotionally numb, not disconnected from reality, not cold in some empty way. Focused, grounded, intentional, harder to distract, harder to access, harder to fool. And once people realize they can no longer trigger the old version of you, they start panicking because they have no strategy for the new one. That's where you are now. You are standing in the space between who they thought you were and who you're about to become. That space is uncomfortable. That space is lonely. That space is holy, because it's where illusions go to die. Your illusion that everybody who smiles at you means well. Dead. Your illusion that hard work alone makes people fair. Dead. Your illusion that loyalty is always mutual. Dead. Your illusion that being a good person protects you from betrayal. Dead. All of that had to die so something stronger could live. Discernment, discipline, restraint, standards, self-respect, vision. These are not soft little words. These are weapons when held by somebody who has suffered enough to understand their price. And you do understand the price now. You know what it cost to keep going when your mind was tired. You know what it cost to smile through seasons that were quietly destroying you. You know what it cost to lose people, illusions, opportunities, versions of yourself. You know what it cost to rebuild with nobody clapping. You know what it cost to stay kind without staying naive. You know what it cost to keep your heart alive in a world that rewards numbness. That cost gave you edge. Not the fake edge people perform online. The real one. The one forged in private. The one built when no one was reposting your pain. The one built when you had to drag yourself back together with bare hands and still show up. The one built when disappointment became routine and you still refused to become ordinary. That's why your next move carries weight. Because it's not just a move. It's a statement. It says you learned. It says you adapted. It says you stopped bleeding in public for the entertainment of people who call it concern. It says you're not led by your wounds anymore. It says your future will no longer be negotiated by those who never had the courage to build their own. And people hate that when they benefited from your hesitation. They hate when the person they underestimated becomes deliberate. They hate when the person they ignored becomes undeniable. They hate when the person they thought would always come back suddenly finds peace elsewhere. They hate when the person they expected to stay confused starts moving with precision. That's why they're sweating, because they know timing matters. And your timing feels different now. You're no longer rushing because you're scared of missing out. You're no longer waiting because you're scared of being judged. You're no longer freezing because someone might disapprove. You're no longer asking permission from people whose own lives are built on avoidance. You are becoming the kind of person who acts when it is time. Not before, not after. When it is time, that makes you a nightmare for anybody who relies on delay, doubt, and distraction. So let them sweat. Let them stare. Let them speculate. Let them gossip. Let them run their little theories. Let them pretend they're not bothered. Let them act unshaken while the tension crawls up their spine every time your name comes up. Because this pressure they feel, they earned it. They earned it every time they played with your worth. Every time they mistook your patience for weakness. Every time they tried to humble what was already healing. Every time they treated your potential like something they had authority over. Every time they assumed your silence meant they had won. No. Your silence was never surrender. It was construction. It was spiritual warfare with discipline. It was identity being rebuilt brick by brick. It was your nervous system learning not to panic at every closed door. It was your mind learning that not every opportunity is yours, and not every delay is denial. It was your soul learning how to stop chasing people who only loved the bleeding version of you.